Girl fell in love with Alpha, who rescued her at first sight. But Alpha despised her for being weak. Before we continue, please remember to like, share and subscribe. The night air was thick with smoke and the sharp scent of pine. Crickets had long stopped singing. The forest, once teeming with whispers of wind and wildlife, now echoed with the crackling roar of flames. Trees groaned as their trunks blackened, and ashes danced in the air like fireflies of doom. Mira's lungs burned with every gasp. Her legs felt like lead, her thin arms clutched a tattered satchel to her chest as if it were the only thing anchoring her to this world. She had run for what felt like hours, but the inferno moved faster. Her village had been overrun without warning. One moment they were preparing stew and folding laundry, and the next, shadows had emerged, creatures not quite wolf, not quite man. Marauders. Rogues. She had seen her mother dragged away, her screams silenced beneath the growl of a beast. Mira hadn't stopped to think. She ran, guilt tearing at her with every step. Now, her path ended at a cliff's edge. Below, darkness. Trees swayed, but they looked so far. She turned around. The forest behind her pulsed orange and red, alive with heat and death. Then a growl, too close. Her eyes widened. A rogue emerged from the flames, eyes gleaming yellow, mouth curling into a grin that no human should wear. Mira backed closer to the edge, trembling. Please," she whispered, tears streaking her soot-stained face. It lunged. Before its claws could slice her, something slammed into it from the side. It wasn't just fast. It was a blur of silver and power. The rogue snarled, but the figure was already upon it. Claws tore. Teeth snapped. In seconds, the rogue was on the ground, unmoving. Dead. Mira fell to her knees, eyes wide, breath caught in her throat. The figure stood upright. A man. Or something like it. He towered above her, shirt torn at the seams, muscles rippling. His eyes glowed with a faint silver hue. His hair was dark, tousled, damp with sweat. Blood, rogue blood, splattered across his arms and neck, but none of it was his. He stared at her. Not with concern. Not with compassion. But with disgust? "Can't even protect yourself," he muttered. Mira blinked. What? He turned away, already walking. "Get up. Or die here." The word struck harder than any blow. She forced herself to her feet, the ache in her bones screaming. Who are you?" He didn't look back. "Alpha Kale of the Stormfang pack. You're on our land. Don't make me regret saving you." She staggered after him, heart pounding, not just from fear. From something else. Something strange. Her soul felt tethered to this stranger. The moment their eyes met, something clicked. Mira had heard of mates. Of soul bonds. Of that one connection that could shake a world. But it couldn't be. Not with him. Could it? Kale walked ahead without slowing, his presence slicing through the thick woods like a blade. Mira stumbled behind, coughing, eyes stinging from the smoke. Her fingers clutched at her satchel, her breath ragged. By the time they reached a clearing where the flames no longer raged, she could barely stand. He gave her a glance, only a glance. And said nothing as he shifted. Bones cracked, fur rippled, and before her stood a massive silver wolf. In one powerful leap, he took off into the forest. Mira collapsed onto the damp grass, breathing hard. Her heart ached with confusion. Why had he looked at her like that? When morning came, she awoke in a wooden room. The air was clean, laced with the scent of herbs and firewood. A blanket lay over her. Someone had cleaned her cuts. The door creaked open, and a woman entered. Blonde, tall, with kind hazel eyes. "You're awake," the woman said. "I'm Lyra. You're safe now." Mira's voice cracked. "Where?" "In the Stormfang territory. You're in the healer's quarters." Lyra's smile faltered slightly. Alpha Kale brought you in. Mira sat up too fast, dizzy. He saved me. Lyra nodded. Yes. But don't expect kindness. Our Alpha doesn't give it easily. That much was clear. Mira clenched the blanket. He hates me. He doesn't know you. And he doesn't hate you. Kale. He just has no room for weakness in his world. He was raised that way. Made that way. But I'm not, Mira hesitated. I didn't ask to be saved. No, Lyra said gently, but you needed it. He watched her with suspicion. She was an outsider. A human. Worse, an orphaned village girl, defenseless and half-starved. Every eye questioned why the Alpha would even lift a finger for someone like her. Kale gave no explanation. He didn't speak to her again for days. But Mira watched him. He trained alone, always at dawn. Fast, brutal, precise. The wolves respected him, feared him even. He commanded with a glance. No one questioned his strength. One morning, Mira crept out of the healer's cabin and approached the training ground. She stood in the shadow of a tree and watched. Kale's movements were poetry, raw and untamed. His punches cracked against thick logs, his kicks splitting bark. His body glistened with sweat, yet his eyes were colder than frost. He paused. His gaze slid toward her, sharp as a blade. You watching me now? He asked, voice low. Mira stepped out. I want to learn. He turned fully to face her. Learn what? To fight. To defend myself. He scoffed. You'd break before your first swing. She stepped closer. Then teach me not to. Kale stared at her for a long moment. The wind whispered through the trees. No, he said. Why? Her voice trembled, but not from fear. Because you're weak. I don't train those who won't survive the first blow. She swallowed hard. I survived my village burning. I survived the rogues. I survived you. That made something flicker in his eyes. Anger? Amusement? Go home, he said. I have no home. Then don't make one here. Mira didn't leave. Every morning, she watched Kale train. And every evening, she sat alone near the border of the woods, her fingers wrapped around a wooden stick, practicing the same stances she saw him use. The pack murmured. Some mocked her. Others ignored her. No one offered help. Still, she didn't leave. The bruises came fast. Her hands blistered, her legs ached. But pain had never frightened her, not after what she'd seen. Kale didn't stop her. He didn't offer encouragement either. Until one morning, she collapsed. She hadn't eaten properly in 2 days. Her body gave out, legs folding under her. The world tilted. Then darkness. When she awoke, it was nighttime. A fire crackled nearby. A fur cloak lay over her shoulders. Kale sat across from her, sharpening a blade. You train like a fool, he muttered, eyes on the blade. Mira winced as she sat up. Then teach me to train smart. He paused. His jaw clenched. You'll regret asking. I already regret staying alive, she whispered. Silence. Sharp, heavy. Kale's gaze lifted, piercing hers. Then you better learn fast. Training with Kale was like surviving a war, one she wasn't allowed to lose. He didn't go easy on her. His blows were controlled, but fast. Unforgiving. He never praised her. Never smiled. Only corrections, glares, and silence. Yet every bruise was proof she wasn't giving up. She began to change. Her posture straightened. Her eyes sharpened. Her muscles, once soft from sheltered life, hardened from effort and pain. One night, after sparring left her flat on her back, Kale stood over her and said, You didn't flinch that time. Mira looked up, breathing hard. That means something coming from you. He stared at her a moment too long. Then turned away. Later, as she sat alone near the stream, soaking her bruises, she heard footsteps. You don't have to be like him, Lyra said gently, sitting beside her. Mira didn't respond. You're not a wolf, Lyra continued. You don't need to be one. I don't want to be weak, Mira whispered. Not ever again. Lyra sighed. Just be careful. Kale, he's not just cold. He's scarred. Mira frowned. Scarred? Lyra's eyes drifted toward the dark treetops. His family was slaughtered by rogues. His mate was killed before the bond could even form. He buried his heart with them. Mira's breath caught. He had a mate? Lyra nodded. Years ago. He doesn't talk about it. And since then, he's never let anyone close. Especially not someone, human. Mira looked at the water. She didn't know why her heart ached. She barely knew him. But each time he looked at her, even with scorn, it ignited something. She had fallen for him. And she didn't know how to stop. Weeks passed. Kale didn't soften, but Mira no longer cared. Her body adapted. Her mind sharpened. She could now land hits. Block attacks. Stand her ground. One night, a howl rang through the forest. A warning. Rogues had crossed into the borderlands. Kale rallied his warriors. Mira stood at the edge, gripping the short blade she had earned through weeks of training. You're not coming, Kale said, eyes flashing. I can help, she argued. You'll slow us down. I won't. I don't care, he growled. Stay out of this. Her heart clenched, but she didn't argue. Not out loud. When the warriors vanished into the trees, Mira followed from a distance. The battle had already begun by the time she arrived. The rogues were wild, twisted things, part man, part beast, all hunger. Blood painted the trees. Growls and howls echoed. Kale fought like death itself. Claws tearing, fangs biting, moves perfect and brutal. But one rogue broke through the line, heading straight for Lyra. Mira didn't think. She ran. She flung herself between the beast and the healer, blade slicing across fur. The rogue roared. Slashed her across the side. Pain exploded. Then Kale was there. He tackled the rogue, snapping its neck in one motion. Mira crumpled, blood pooling beneath her. Kale turned, eyes wide. For the first time, his face changed. Not anger. Not disdain. Fear. He dropped to his knees, scooping her into his arms. Mira, no. Don't, her vision swam. Told you I wouldn't slow you down, then everything faded. Mira drifted in a sea of cold. Pain pulsed through her like thunder under skin, and yet it was not the pain that kept her from waking, it was the voice. Deep. Low. Guttural. Like someone was calling her back from the brink, even when the world begged her to let go. You stubborn girl, Kale's voice whispered in the dark. Why would you do that? Why would you bleed for someone like me? In the haze of unconsciousness, Mira dreamed of silver eyes, of wolves in the fog, of fire licking her heels as she ran, but always, Kale was there. Always, she was chasing him. Always, he refused to look back. When she finally opened her eyes, sunlight filtered through a narrow window. She was in the healer's hut again, wrapped in layers of warmth, the wound on her side stitched with precision. Lyra sat at her bedside. Her eyes were rimmed red, but relief filled them the moment she saw Mira move. You're lucky, Lyra said softly. It was deep. But you'll heal. Mira blinked, her lips dry. Kale, he hasn't left the camp since he carried you back, Lyra replied. Refuses to admit he's worried. But he hasn't slept either. Mira's heart beat slower at those words, heavier. Not with happiness. Not yet. Because worry wasn't love. Mira recovered slowly. The wound left a scar, but she wore it like armor. She expected Kale to avoid her, to punish her with silence or blame. But instead, he came. On the fourth night, just after dusk, the door creaked open and there he stood. Still in his armor. Still stiff as stone. But something was different in his eyes, like the frost was starting to melt. "You disobeyed me," he said, stepping closer. Mira looked up from the fire, expression unreadable. "I saved Lyra's life." He didn't argue. "You were reckless," he said instead, but softer this time. "But brave." Mira blinked. It was the first time he had acknowledged anything but weakness in her. "I didn't do it to prove anything," she murmured. I couldn't let someone else die." "Not again." Kale stared at her. Then, slowly, he sat beside her. For a while, neither spoke. "You remind me of her," he said suddenly. Mira turned to him. "My mate. The one who was taken." His voice was low, broken at the edges. She was fierce too. Always running headfirst into danger. "I'm sorry," Mira said, and meant it. Kale nodded. "I hated you at first, because you were soft. Fragile. But now I see, you're not. You just haven't been allowed to grow teeth." Mira let that sit between them. Her fingers trembled, not from fear, but from the way her heart twisted in her chest. "Let me," she whispered, "stay. Let me learn." He looked at her. And this time, he didn't say no. Kale changed. He didn't laugh. He didn't touch her. But he began to see her. Truly see. He corrected her stances and training, not with mockery, but with focus. He taught her things no one else dared, how to move silently through the forest, how to find a rogue's blind spot, how to kill with precision. Sometimes, she caught him watching her, not with disdain, but with something else. Something he wasn't ready to name. And sometimes, when their fingers brushed, Mira felt heat stir inside her, like a bond tightening, thread by thread. One night, she asked, "How do you know when a bond forms?" Kale didn't answer at first. Then he said, "It starts slow. A pull in your chest. Like gravity. You want to hate it, but you can't stop falling." She swallowed. "Have you felt that with anyone else?" "No," he said simply. "Only once. Only now." Her heart nearly stopped. "You mean, I don't want it," Kale said quickly, standing. "I didn't ask for it." Mira stood too, trembling. "Then why did you save me?" "I don't know." He roared suddenly, voice cracking the air. "I saw you about to die and something in me broke. I don't understand it. I don't want it. But it's there. You're in my head, Mira. In my blood." Silence. She stepped closer. "I never asked you to love me," she said softly. "I just wanted to matter." Kale looked away. "You do. That's the problem." The moon hung full and golden above the treetops, casting pale light across the clearing where Stormfang warriors gathered. Something was wrong. The air had a pulse to it. Sharp. Electric. Tense. Mira stood behind the main ring of wolves, her heart thrumming with a sick rhythm. Her body had healed, but her soul was still raw, from Kale's words, his nearness, and his silence since that night. They hadn't spoken in days. She knew what it meant. He was retreating, walling himself in again. She had felt the shift, like a door slamming shut. But tonight, that didn't matter. Rogues were coming. And not just a few. Scouts had returned from the eastern cliffs, speaking of claw marks gouged deep into stone. Of unnatural howls. Of bodies, ripped apart, their scents devoured. Something darker than rogue blood pulsed at the border. Kale stood at the front, flanked by his two most trusted warriors. His silver eyes glowed like a blade in moonlight. "This won't be a clean battle," he growled. "They're coming for blood. For territory. For us. We meet them at the hollow and finish it there. No retreat." A chorus of growls followed. Mira stepped forward. "I want to fight." Kale's eyes snapped to hers. No, she met his gaze. "I've trained. I've bled for this pack. I'm not hiding again." "You're not ready." "I'm not afraid." "That's not the same thing." The warriors quieted, watching. Mira walked up to him. "Don't you see it yet?" she said, her voice breaking with something deeper than fury. "You've made me strong. You hated me for being weak, but you're the one who gave me claws. Let me use them." Kale's jaw tightened. There was a war behind his eyes, something crumbling and something rising. Then he nodded once. "Stay close to me. Don't do anything foolish." She gave him a hard smile. "Too late." Underscore 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 underscore. They ran under the cloak of night, paws pounding over earth as shadows danced between trees. Mira wasn't as fast in her human form, but she kept up, weaving through brush and roots with practiced ease. When they reached the hollow, the rogues were already waiting. But they weren't like before. These ones were twisted, scarred by dark magic, their fur slick with rot, their eyes glowing red. A mutant pack. Not just rogues. Corrupted. Kale let out a howl that split the stars. The fight began. Mira ducked a swipe from one beast, rolled to the side, and drove her blade deep into its ribs. She was faster now. Smarter. She didn't hesitate. A blur of fur flashed beside her. Kale, ripping through a rogue with brutal grace. But then she saw him. The leader. Tall, lean, and marked with ancient symbols burned into flesh. This one wasn't just strong, he reeked of something otherworldly. Kale lunged at him without hesitation. They clashed. Fangs. Claws. Roars. Kale was strong, but this beast was unnatural. Dark magic laced every move. His claws cut deeper. His strikes were wild but laced with power. For the first time, Kale was being pushed back. "No." Mira whispered, charging forward. A rogue lunged toward her, but she dodged, slicing its throat with speed she never thought possible. She reached Kale just as the leader raked his claws across the alpha's chest, sending him crashing to the ground. The beast turned to finish him. Mira screamed, not in fear, but in fury, and drove her blade deep into the back of its neck. The monster roared, grabbing her by the throat, lifting her. Kale saw it through blurred vision. And that was the last straw. His roar shattered the trees. Silver light erupted from him, not just power, but something primal. His wolf form exploded in size, eyes glowing not with anger, but with bonded rage. He tackled the rogue leader and tore it apart, bite by bite, until nothing moved but twitching limbs. Then it was over. Mira lay gasping on the ground, blood seeping from her shoulder. Kale shifted back and crawled to her, eyes wide, hands shaking. "You idiot," he whispered. "Why did you follow me?" Her lips quivered. "Because I love you." Silence. Wind rustled the leaves around them. The rest of the pack began to emerge, the battle won, watching their alpha kneel over a wounded girl with something close to reverence in his eyes. "I told myself you were a mistake," Kale whispered. "That saving you was weakness. That this bond was a curse." She looked at him through tears. "But I was wrong." He cupped her face, fingers trembling. "You're not weak, Mira. You were never weak." "I was. Because I thought pushing you away would protect me from losing again." She smiled faintly. Then stop running. Kale leaned down, forehead against hers. I love you. Moon, help me, I love you. And in that moment, the bond fully ignited. Not with magic, but with truth. Months later, the Stormfang pack had changed. The rogues were gone. The borders were stronger. And Mira was no longer an outsider. She trained new warriors. Fought alongside Kale. She wasn't just the alpha's mate. She was his equal. Kale still didn't smile much. But he watched her like she was the last good thing in the world. And at night, when no one else could see, he held her like a lifeline he'd nearly lost. Once, he had saved her from fire. Now, she had saved him from frost. And together, they built something that neither fear nor fury could touch. Because sometimes, the strongest hearts are born not from power, but from surviving the fire, and choosing to stay soft anyway. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more. Thank you.